Hey, hello, bonjour. Welcome to Entailing Tales with Sush. We left Arulmozhi Varman, or better known as Ponniyin Selvan, convalescing at Sudamani Viharam, Nagapattinam. He spent time with Acharya Bhikshu, learning about his travels to several South Asian countries where Buddhism spread. Rumors are spread about Ponniyin Selvan's presence in the Viharam, and the people of Nagapattinam are enraged and worried that the Buddhists are trying to convert him to Buddhism. The boatman Murugaiyan's wife, Rakkammal, is the reason for the rumors. As the Acharya Bhikshu tries to calm the angry crowds outside the Viharam, a massive cyclone hits Nagapattinam. Murugaiyan manages to take Ponniyin Selvan to the Chozha palace in Mangalam, and they rescue the Acharya Bhikshu on the way. As Ponniyin Selvan discusses the relief work to be done at Nagapattinam, Murugaiyan informs him about Mandakini, his Kaveri Amman, getting abducted. Ponniyin Selvan decides to leave Mangalam disguised as a trader with Murugaiyan. The plan is foiled by Rakkammal, who reveals his true identity. Immediately, a sea of people surround him and want him to stay there and partake of their hospitality. During his travel, he realizes that he may be in danger and could be surrounded by Pandyan conspirators, as he faces hurdles in all his plans. The crowd accompany him to Thanjavur. At the palace, Ponniyin Selvan orders that the elephant on which he rode should be ready for him next morning along with the mahot. Later that evening, Murugaiyan informs Ponniyin Selvan of the Pandyan conspirators trying to replace the mahot. The next morning, when Ponniyin Selvan calls for the mahot, one of the conspirators comes forward. The elephant picks him up and throws him away. Ponniyin Selvan uses the chaos this action creates and jumps on the elephant and steers it towards Thanjavur. While steering the elephant across fields and flooded canals, Ponniyin Selvan manages to rescue Poonkuzhali and Vanati from the flooded Kaveri. Poonkuzhali tells Arulmozhi that Mandakini does not wish to live any longer and would like to see him once before she dies. They proceed to Thanjavur. The elder Parvattarayar, who had left Kadambur for Thanjavur, also gets caught in the flooded Kollidam. His boat hits a floating tree and he is thrown into the gushing waters. Miraculously, he survives. He overhears the conversation between two Pandya conspirators about the plot to assassinate the emperor and his two sons on the same day. He also learns the truth about Nandini's role and her relationship with Pandyan conspirators. Full of anger about how he got manipulated by Nandini, he confronts the conspirators, but is overpowered by them. He manages to recover somehow and proceeds to Kudandai, where he accidentally meets Kundavai and tells her about the plot, before going back to Kadambur where Nandini and Karigalan are. Kundavai says Vanati all that she has learned from elder Parvattarayar. Vanati tells Arulmozhi and they continue their journey to Thanjavur. Vanati, Poonkuzhali and Arulmozhi reach the palace. Enters it in Vanati's demand. They do not want to reveal the true identity of Arulmozhi. He proceeds to meet his father when a loud scream from inside the palace is heard. Poonkuzhali rushes in to see a spear-piercing Mandakini as she tries to save Sundara Chola from the assassin's aim. During the commotion, the assassins manage to escape. King Sundara Chola holds Mandakini's head in his lap and sobs. Arulmozhi tries to console him. At Kadambur, Nandini reveals her real intentions to Manimegalai and Vandiyathevan. Vandiyathevan asks her not to assassinate the crowned king Aditya Karikalan. Nandini agrees, but Vandiyathevan asks her to hand over the Pandya sword to him. While handing it over, it falls to the ground with a clanging noise and they all hear footsteps outside. Vandiyathevan rushes into the room which has stuffed animals and hides. As Aditya Karikalan enters Nandini's room. Aditya Karikalan expresses his sorrow at the injustice he had did to Nandini by beheading Veerapandyan. Nandini gets very emotional and tells Karikalan how her entire life has been one misery after another. Karikalan tries to convince Nandini that they do not need any of this and could go somewhere alone and live happily. But Nandini denies and she whispers to him who her real father is. Karikalan is shocked, gets emotional at the things Nandini has been through and asks for forgiveness. Vandiyathevan, who was listening to their conversation, wants to step in and help Aditya Karikalan, but a Kala Mohan strangles him. As Vandiyathevan falls down, he sees a man entering Nandini's room, sword in hand. He also sees Ravidasan, the Pandya conspirators, rushing in from another direction. In the ensuing confusion, the lights go out and Aditya Karikalan is murdered. When Vandiyathevan recovers, he gropes in the darkness and touches a body. Realizing it is the corpse of the murdered Aditya Karikalan, he is filled with grief and frustration. Sambhavarayar and Kandamaran enter the room and accuse Vandiyathevan of having killed the crown prince. Manimegalai intervenes, claiming that it was she who killed the prince. Sambhavarayar orders Vandiyathevan to be tied to a cot and asks his son Kandamaran to leave Kadambur immediately. He asks him to inform the Parvatrayars and other allies about the death of the prince. He also sets fire to the Kadambur palace. The crown prince's maternal grandfather, Tirukoilur Malayamman, who was camping nearby, receives word that the prince's life was in danger. He attacks the Kadambur fort. As the flames engulf the fort, Vandiyathevan manages to free himself and carries Aditya Karikalan's body to the courtyard. He places the dead body of the prince at Malayamman's feet and collapses. Lamenting the death of his beloved grandson, a furious Malayamman arrests Sambhavarayar and Vandiyathevan and puts them behind the bars. He takes them along with the dead body of the crown prince to enable the emperor to perform the last rites and also to mete out justice to the perpetrators of the crime. Nandini flees the palace. The last part of the story starts with Arvar Kadayan meeting Poonkuzhali as she follows the Pandyan conspirators to their hideout near Kollidam. Poonkuzhali narrates how her aunt, the Mandakini, was murdered in the process of saving the emperor Sundara Chola. Arulmozhi and Poonkuzhali keep following the Pandyan conspirators till they reach a cave. Elder Parvattarayar is inside the cave, as is Nandini. Pandyan conspirators and Arulmozhi exchange words, and Nandini realizes that her mother, Mandakini Devi, has been killed. As she sits down to lament about it, younger Parvattarayar and Kandanmaran come to the same spot, led there by Sendan Amudan, Poonkuzhali's cousin. The conspirators escape and the Parvattarayar brothers are reunited. They exchange news of all that had happened in the interim. Nandini takes Elder Parvattarayar's blessings for one last time and leaves on a horse, never to return to the story. The funeral of Aditya Karikalan is a somber affair. People bid a tearful adieu to the great warrior who entered a war at the age of 12. Aditya Karikalan was called Koppara Kesari for having beheaded the great Veerapandyan. The anger towards the Parvattarayars and Madurantakan bubbles over. In the meantime, Kundavai receives the scroll that Aditya Karikalan had penned just before his untimely death. In the scroll, he mentions about he going to meet Nandini and that Vandiyadevan is not responsible for anything bad that happens to him, and that Arulmozhi Varman will take Chola dynasty to greater extent. Arulmozhi and Kundavai figures out that Madurantakan and Nandini were not their siblings, as they were born 2 years after their father had returned from Lanka. Arulmozhi sets off to release Vandiyadevan from the prison. In the prison with Vandiyadevan is a madman named Karuthiruman in the next cell. The madman knows many secrets and also where the Pandyan jewelled crown was kept in Lanka. He reveals some deep secrets. Mandakini was rescued by Karuthiruman when she suicides from the lighthouse. As we know, Sembiyan Madevi takes care of Mandakini in the palace garden where she gives birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The boy child is Madurantakan, and while the girl child is Nandini. At the same time, Sembiyan Madevi also gives birth to a baby boy. But the boy doesn't survive and is sent for burial. Madurantakan is adopted by Sembiyan Madevi, while actually the stillborn baby of Sembiyan Madevi does not die. That baby is rescued by Karuthiruman, and that baby leads a very simple life in an ordinary household. That boy baby is Sendan Amudan. Sendan Amudan is the real son of Sembiyan Madevi and the rightful heir to the Chola dynasty. Next day morning, the Tanjavur palace crew has gathered for the justice of Karikalan's death. Sundara Chola, Arulmozhi, Parvattarayar, Anirudha Brahmarayar are also present. Amidst the discussions, Elder Parvattarayar comes forward and repents for having killed Karikalan and says, 3 years back, I fell prey to Nandini's trap, enchanted by her beauty, and blindly followed everything she said to make Madurantakan the king of Chola dynasty. Later on, after understanding this truth, I approached Kadambur palace to kill Nandini and flung a sword at her. The sword misses its aim and kills Karikalan. Elder Parvattarayar breaks a big secret here. That night in the Kadambur palace, I heard Nandini say something to Aditya Karikalan. Only then did I realize the traitor I was to Chola dynasty. Madurantaka, whom I tried to bring to the throne, is not the real son of Sembiyan Madevi. He is not even a Chola prince. He is the son of our enemy, Pandyan. Everybody are perplexed and startled hearing this. Actually, what happened was, Mandakini was rescued by Karuthiruman when she suicides from the lighthouse and is taken to Sri Lanka in a boat. On the way, he sees a wounded soldier struggling for life in the sea. That soldier happens to be the great Pandyan king, Pandyan. Along with Mandakini, Pandyan is also rescued and dropped in an island in Lanka. After a few days, Mandakini gets pregnant. Sembiyan Madevi brings Mandakini and takes care of her in the palace garden, where she gives birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The boy child is Madurantaka, while the girl child is Nandini. Madurantaka and Nandini are none but the children of Pandyan. This well-devised plot was by Nandini to avenge the Chola dynasty for having killed her father. She sneaks in Chola dynasty, entices everybody to obey her commands to make a Pandya heir to the throne of Chola dynasty. There is no way I can compensate for the mistake I have made. Saying this, Elder Parvatraya pierces himself with a dagger out of guilt and is in deathbed. Before he dies, he wishes to tell a truth to someone. He reveals to Arulmozhi that the sword he throws in Kadambur palace does not hit Aditya Karikalan. Even before that, he gets killed by someone else and falls to the ground. Elder Parvatraya is also unaware of who killed Aditya Karikalan. Just to save Vandiyadevan from false suspicion of people, Elder Parvatraya takes the blame on himself, as Vandiyadevan is a devoted person and that Chola dynasty is indebted to his loyalty. Saying this, the brave warrior Elder Parvatraya breathes his last. The emperor gets all the important people together and tries to decide on his successor. Sembiyan Madevi finally breaks her secret to Sendan Amudan about his lineage. After a few months, Prince Arulmozhi is to be crowned the emperor of Chola dynasty. Everyone has gathered for the much awaited auspicious occasion. Vandiyadevan accompanies Arulmozhi to the august gathering. All of a sudden, Arulmozhi tricks everyone and crowns his uncle Prince Sendan Amudan the successor to Emperor Sundara Chola. Sendan Amudan is then given the title Uttama Chola. Thus, the fifth part of the book is named Pinnacle of Sacrifice. Later in history, Kundavai marries Vandiyadevan. Arulmozhi Varman marries Vanati and their son is Rajendra Chola. Uttama Chola is succeeded by Arulmozhi Varman, who comes to be known as Rajaraja Chola, the greatest Chola emperor.